Echoes from the stars. The Siberian permafrost had kept its secrets for millennia, but Dr. Ilara Voss was never one to take no for an answer. The 34-year-old archaeologist stood at the edge of the excavation site, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air as she surveyed the team's progress. 3 weeks of digging had uncovered what appeared to be a structure of non-human origin, buried beneath ice and sediment that carbon dating placed it roughly 40,000 years old. "Dr. Voss, you need to see this," called Marcus, her assistant, his voice tinged with an excitement that cut through the howling wind. Ilara made her way carefully down the makeshift stairs carved into the ice. The excavation had revealed a smooth metallic surface, unlike anything that should exist in this time period. It gleamed with an iridescent blue sheen under their work lights, seemingly untouched by time. "We've found an opening," Marcus said, pointing to a circular indentation about the size of a dinner plate. "And there's something strange about it. The temperature readings around this section are 5 degrees warmer than the surrounding area." Ilara crouched beside the artifact, her trained eyes taking in every detail. "This isn't stone or any metal I recognize. The craftsmanship is." She paused, searching for the right word. Perfect. Too perfect for the time period. As she reached out to touch the surface, the circular section suddenly illuminated with symbols that resembled no known ancient language. The team backed away instinctively, but Ilara remained transfixed. The symbols rearranged themselves before her eyes, shifting from incomprehensible patterns to recognizable Latin characters. "Impossible," she whispered. The message was simple. "Welcome home, children of Earth." Within 24 hours, the site was swarming with military personnel and government scientists. Ilara fought to maintain control of her discovery, arguing fiercely with General Harrow, the stern-faced military commander who had taken charge of the operation. "This is an archaeological find, not a military asset," she insisted, standing her ground despite the general's imposing presence. "Dr. Voss, when an object of unknown origin starts displaying English text, it becomes a matter of national security," Harrow replied coldly. "It's not English, it's Latin characters," she corrected, "and it's adapting to us, not the other way around. This technology is responsive, possibly even sentient." Their argument was interrupted by a deafening roar from above. The sky, previously clear and star-filled, was suddenly dominated by a massive shape descending through the clouds. The object was smooth and elongated, easily the size of an aircraft carrier, with no visible propulsion system. It simply was there, defying gravity and human understanding. Panic erupted around them. Military personnel raised their weapons, scientists scrambled for equipment, and several people simply ran. Ilara remained rooted to the spot, her eyes fixed on the impossible ship hovering above them. A beam of intense light shot down from the vessel, touching the ground 50 meters from where they stood. When it receded, 3 figures remained. They were tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer like the surface of the artifact, ranging from deep blue to violet. Their faces were almost human, but with larger eyes that contained no visible pupils, just swirling galaxies of color. One of the beings stepped forward, raising its hand in what appeared to be a universal gesture of peace. Then, to everyone's astonishment, it spoke in perfect English. "We are representatives of the Ardalian Federation. We come in peace, seeking dialogue with the inheritors of the architect legacy." General Harrow stepped forward, hand resting on his sidearm. "What is your purpose here? How do you know our language?" The alien's expression remained serene. "We have been monitoring your world since you rediscovered the beacon. As for your language, we have been studying your transmissions for many of your years. We are here because the activation of the beacon signals that humanity has reached the necessary stage of development." Ilara pushed past the general. "The artifact we discovered, you call it a beacon. What does it do?" The alien turned its gaze to her, and Ilara felt a strange sensation, as if she were being scanned from the inside out. "The beacon is a key, Dr. Ilara Voss. a key to your species' true history. The fact that it knew her name sent a chill down her spine, but curiosity overwhelmed her fear. What do you mean, true history? Humans did not evolve solely on Earth, the alien said simply. You were once among the greatest spacefaring civilizations in the galaxy. The architects, as we knew you, created wonders that still sustain many worlds today. A stunned silence fell over the group. It was General Harrow who found his voice first. That's impossible. We have a clear evolutionary record on Earth. Yes, the alien agreed, because after the Great Catastrophe, the survivors who returned to Earth chose to begin again. They sealed away their technology and integrated with the primitive human population already evolving here. Over generations, the truth became myth, then was forgotten entirely. Ilara's mind raced with the implications, the ancient astronaut theories, the common myths of gods descending from the sky across different cultures. Fragmentary memories of truth, the alien confirmed. The beacon you discovered was meant to activate when your civilization reached a certain technological threshold. It was a message from your ancestors to their descendants. Before anyone could respond, another sound split the air, a high-pitched whine that made everyone cover their ears. The Ardalians looked up in alarm. We are not alone, the lead alien announced. The Vexmore Dominion has followed us. They have feared the return of the architects for millennia. On the horizon, 3 smaller craft appeared, sleek and predatory in design, with pulsing red lights along their hulls. What's happening? Harrow demanded. The Vexmore believe that if humans reclaim their heritage, they will also reclaim their former territories, including systems the Dominion has controlled since your absence. They will not allow the beacon to be activated fully. The first shot came without warning. A beam of energy that struck near the excavation site, vaporizing a research tent and everything in it. The military personnel returned fire with their conventional weapons, but the bullets seemed to disintegrate before reaching the attacking ships. We must secure the beacon, the Ardalian insisted, turning to Ilara. If it is destroyed, the knowledge of your past will be lost forever. Ilara made a split-second decision. Show me what to do. The Ardalian led her back to the excavation while chaos erupted around them. More ships appeared in the sky, some Ardalian, others belonging to the attackers. The night lit up with energy weapons and explosions. At the artifact, the Ardalian placed its hand on the circular section. Place your hand beside mine. The beacon will recognize your genetic signature. Ilara hesitated only briefly before pressing her palm against the cool metal. Instantly, the entire structure hummed to life, the blue glow intensifying until it was almost blinding. The ground beneath them began to shift as more of the structure revealed itself, rising from the permafrost. What is it doing? She asked, raising her voice over the noise of battle. Awakening, the Ardalian replied, and it is calling to others of its kind across your world. A holographic display erupted from the center of the now fully revealed structure, a globe of Earth with dozens of points of light scattered across its surface. Each represented another beacon, hidden beneath pyramids, within mountain ranges, under oceans. One of the alien attackers broke through the defensive line, a reptilian creature wearing armor that seemed to blend with its scaled skin. It raised a weapon toward them, but before it could fire, a blur of motion intercepted it. Another Ardalian, smaller than the first, and with skin of deep purple, grappled with the attacker. Complete the activation sequence, the purple Ardalian shouted as it fought. Ilara looked to the first Ardalian for guidance. What do I do? Speak the phrase that appeared when you first discovered it. The beacon requires vocal confirmation from an architect descendant. Taking a deep breath, Ilara spoke the words, "Welcome home, children of Earth." The effect was immediate and extraordinary. A pulse of energy emanated from the beacon, expanding outward in a perfect circle. When it reached the attacking ships, they froze in midair, their weapons systems going dark. What just happened? General Harrow asked, approaching cautiously with a squad of soldiers. The lead Ardalian straightened, a look of satisfaction on its alien features. The defense protocol has been activated. The beacons were designed to protect Earth until humanity was ready to return to the stars. The purple Ardalian approached, dragging the now unconscious attacker. We cannot stay, Krenfar. More Vexmore ships will come, and the defense network is not yet at full strength. The lead Ardalian, Krenfar, nodded. Dr. Voss, the awakening of the beacons will draw attention from across the galaxy. Some will come as friends, others as conquerors. You have begun a process that cannot be reversed. What are you suggesting? She asked. Come with us. Learn about your heritage directly from the Ardalian archives, where we have preserved the history of the architects. Earth will need ambassadors who understand the truth if it is to survive what comes next. General Harrow stepped between them. Now wait just a minute. With respect, General, Ilara interrupted. If what they're saying is true, we're dealing with something far beyond military protocols. This is about our origin as a species. The sounds of battle had faded, but in the distance, new lights appeared in the sky. More ships approaching. We must decide quickly, Krenfar urged. The Vexmore will return with greater numbers. Ilara looked around at the excavation site, at the artifact that had changed everything in a matter of hours. Then she met Krenfar's galaxy-filled eyes. I'll go, she said firmly, but I'm not going alone. In the end, a small team was assembled. Ilara, Marcus, a military liaison named Captain Rivera, and a quantum physicist, Dr. Sanjay Patel, who had been called to study the artifact. Within 30 minutes, they were aboard the Ardalian vessel, watching Earth shrink beneath them as they ascended into the stars. As the blue planet became a small jewel against the blackness of space, Ilara felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. Humanity's understanding of its place in the universe had been fundamentally altered. Whatever came next, there was no going back to the comfortable illusions of isolation. The galaxy remembers the architects, Krenfar told her as they stood on the observation deck. Now it is time for the architects to remember themselves. Heritage of the stars. The Ardalian ship, which Krenfar called the Astral Seeker, moved through space in a way that defied human understanding of physics. There was no sensation of acceleration, no engine vibration, only the stars outside shifting from points of light to streaks as they entered what Krenfar termed phase space. It's not exactly what humans would call faster-than-light travel, Dr. Paddle explained to the others after a lengthy discussion with the Ardalian engineers. They're shifting our matter partially into another dimensional phase where distance is compressed. That makes absolutely no sense, Captain Rivera muttered, her hand never straying far from her sidearm, despite the Ardalians' continued hospitality. Neither did quantum entanglement a century ago, Ilara reminded her. We're dealing with a civilization that's thousands, maybe millions of years ahead of us technologically. Their quarters aboard the ship were surprisingly comfortable, designed to accommodate human physiology, with only minor miscalculations, beds slightly too long, doorways a bit too high. But it was the ship's archive room that had become Ilara's sanctuary during their 3-day journey. The archive was a circular chamber where holographic displays could conjure images and information from across the galaxy. Krenfar had granted them limited access, enough to begin learning about the complex political landscape they were entering. The galaxy is divided among several major powers, Marcus summarized during their team meeting. The Ardalian Federation seems to be the most democratic, an alliance of about 200 species across what they call the Inner Spiral. The Vexmore Dominion controls the Outer Rim territories. They're more authoritarian, conquering rather than inviting membership. And where do humans fit into all this? Rivera asked. That's the fascinating part, Ilara said, bringing up a holographic timeline. According to Ardalian records, humans, or architects, as they knew us, were an advanced civilization over 300,000 years ago. We had colonies across thousands of worlds. But something happened, Patel added solemnly. A conflict or catastrophe that nearly wiped us out. The records become fragmented around that time. Convenient, Rivera commented skeptically. Krenthar entered the archive, his movements fluid and graceful despite his towering height. Not convenient, Captain. Deliberate. Much of the historical record was destroyed during the Great Catastrophe. By whom? Ilara asked. By the architects themselves, Krenthar replied. What we know comes primarily from archaeological evidence and the records of other species who survived the cataclysm. The Ardalian activated a new holographic display, showing a spiral galaxy with numerous points of light. At their height, the architects had mastered energy manipulation on a scale we still cannot replicate. They created the Nexus Gates, a network that allowed instantaneous travel between any 2 points in the galaxy. The hologram shifted to show massive ring-like structures floating in space. These gates revolutionized galactic civilization, but they also required immense power drawn directly from the quantum fabric of spacetime. That sounds, Patel hesitated, potentially unstable. Indeed, Krenthar agreed. The architects believed they had created perfect safeguards. They were wrong. The hologram changed again, showing one of the gates distorting, then collapsing in on itself before erupting in a blast that consumed an entire star system. The coreward gate failed catastrophically. The resulting quantum cascade affected every gate in the network. Hundreds of systems were destroyed in an instant. Billions perished. A somber silence fell over the humans as they watched the simulation of destruction spread across the galaxy. The surviving architects tried to contain the damage, Krenthar continued. They sacrificed themselves by the millions, using their remaining technology to stabilize the quantum fractures before they could spread further. They succeeded, but at a terrible cost. And the survivors returned to Earth, Ilara concluded quietly. Not immediately. First, they dismantled what remained of their technology, sealing away anything that might one day pose a similar threat. They established the beacons as both warnings and guides for their descendants. Then, yes, a small population returned to your homeworld, choosing to begin again among the early humans already evolving there. But why would they choose to forget? Marcus asked. Why not maintain some knowledge of their past? Krenthar's expression shifted in what they had come to recognize as the Ardalian equivalent of a sad smile. Shame. Grief. A desire to ensure that the same mistakes would not be repeated. The choice to forget was considered the final safeguard. A chime sounded throughout the ship, interrupting their conversation. We are approaching Ardelia Prime, Krenthar announced. The Council has been informed of your arrival and wishes to meet with you immediately. The view of Ardelia Prime from orbit was breathtaking. A world of deep blues and purples, with spiraling continent formations unlike anything on Earth. The capital city was a marvel of architecture, with buildings that seemed to flow like liquid crystal, reaching impossibly high into the sky. The council chamber was a vast circular room, with seating for hundreds of delegates from across the Federation. The human team stood at the center, trying not to appear overwhelmed as alien representatives of every description observed them with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and wonder. The head counselor, an ancient Ardalian with skin that had faded to pale lavender, addressed them directly. Descendants of the architects, your return was foretold, though many doubted it would occur in our lifetime. The activation of the Earth beacons has sent ripples through the galactic community. Already, diplomatic channels are flooded with inquiries and threats. Threats? Rivera tensed visibly. The Vexmore Dominion has issued a formal demand that Earth be quarantined and all beacons deactivated. They claim that human access to architect technology represents an existential threat to galactic stability, based on something that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. Ilara objected. Based on fear, Krenthar clarified. The Dominion rose to power in the vacuum left by the architects. They have the most to lose if humans reclaim their heritage. The head counselor raised a hand for silence. Before we address these political concerns, the council believes you should understand exactly what your ancestors left behind. We will grant you access to the ancestral archives, where we have preserved what artifacts and knowledge of the architects we could salvage. The ancestral archives were housed in a structure apart from the rest of the city, a perfect pyramid of what appeared to be black glass, surrounded by a garden of alien vegetation. Inside, the humans found themselves in a vast space, filled with artifacts similar to the beacon they had discovered on Earth, but intact and fully functional. A new Ardalia met them there, introducing herself as Vela Morn, Chief Archivist. What you see here represents only a fraction of architect achievement, but it should help you understand your potential and your responsibility. For hours, the team moved through the archive, examining holographic records, technological artifacts, and biological samples. The picture that emerged was both inspiring and sobering. Humans had indeed been a remarkable species, capable of extraordinary feats of engineering and adaptation. But they had also been prone to the same flaws that plagued modern humanity: hubris, conflict, and a tendency to push boundaries without fully considering the consequences. The most remarkable thing about humans, Velamorn explained, was not your technological prowess, but your adaptability. When faced with the quantum catastrophe, no other species could have survived the radiation levels required to stabilize the fractures. Your ancestors consciously evolved themselves to withstand conditions that would have destroyed any other form of life. Evolved themselves? Patel questioned. The architects had mastered their own genetics. They could adapt their bodies to new environments within a single generation. This trait appears to have been largely lost in modern humans, but the potential remains in your DNA. Ilara's attention was drawn to a sealed container at the center of the archive. What's in there? Velamorn hesitated. The most dangerous and valuable artifact we possess, a complete architect neural interface. With it, a human could potentially access the entirety of architect knowledge, if their mind could withstand the download. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. Krenfar rushed into the room, his usual composure shattered. Vexmore ships have entered the system, he announced. They have bypassed our defense grid using stolen phase technology. How is that possible? Velamorn demanded. Treachery. The High Marshal of the 7th Fleet has defected. They seek the artifacts and the humans. Why us specifically? Rivera asked, automatically forming a defensive position around her teammates. Because you have activated the beacon network. You are now, quite literally, the keys to unlocking all remaining architect technology. A tremor shook the building as something impacted nearby. We need to get you to safety, Krenfar insisted. The Council is evacuating to the orbital platform. No, Ilara said firmly, her eyes still on the sealed container. If what you've told us is true, then humanity needs to face this moment directly. Our ancestors ran from their mistakes. We won't do the same. She turned to Velamorn. Open the container. Let me use the neural interface. Ilara. No. Marcus protested. We have no idea what that will do to you. We're out of options, she replied calmly. The Vexmore won't stop coming. If they're this afraid of what humans might become, then we need to understand exactly what that means. After a moment of silent deliberation, Velamorn approached the container and placed her hand on its surface. It recognized her biological signature and opened slowly, revealing a simple circlet of the same iridescent metal as the beacon. Once activated, the interface cannot be removed until the knowledge transfer is complete, Velamorn warned. The process could kill you. Ilara took the circlet in her hands, feeling a slight vibration as it recognized her genetic signature. If I don't try, we all die anyway. Before anyone could stop her, she placed the circlet on her head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes widened as information began flooding into her consciousness, not as data or images, but as memories. Generations of knowledge, experience, and understanding cascaded through her mind, reorganizing her perception of reality itself. She saw the rise of human civilization among the stars, The development of technologies based on a fundamentally different understanding of physics than humanity had pursued on Earth. She witnessed the creation of the Nexus gates and the horrible moment when the network failed. She felt the sacrifice of billions who gave their lives to contain the damage, and the agonizing decision of the survivors to seal away their knowledge and begin anew. Most importantly, she understood why. When she finally removed the circlet, seconds had passed for the others, but Ilara had lived through millennia of human history. She looked at her teammates with eyes that somehow seemed older, wiser. "I understand now," she said softly, "and I know what we need to do." The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Under Ilara's guidance, the team reactivated artifacts that had lain dormant for eons. The pyramid structure itself was revealed to be a defensive system, creating a shield that repelled the first wave of Vexmore attacks. When the Vexmore High Commander demanded their surrender, Ilara addressed him directly through a communication channel. "Your fear is justified," she told the reptilian commander, whose scaled face filled the holographic display. "The architects nearly destroyed the galaxy once through arrogance and miscalculation. But running from that legacy ensured we would never learn from it." "Pretty words cannot change history," the commander hissed. "Your kind are too dangerous to be allowed access to the remnants of your past glory." "We don't want glory," Ilara replied calmly. "We want understanding. The architects' greatest mistake wasn't technological, it was ethical. They created power without wisdom to guide it." She activated a sequence on the Archive's central console. Throughout the system, dormant architect satellites activated, creating a network of energy that surrounded both the Ardalian and Vexmore fleets. "This technology doesn't have to divide us," she continued. "My ancestors left behind more than weapons. They left solutions to problems we haven't even recognized yet. Clean energy, medical advancements, terraforming methods that could revitalize dying worlds. Including worlds within Vexmore territory," Krenfar added, understanding dawning on his features. A tense silence followed as the Vexmore commander considered this. Finally, he spoke. "The Dominion Council will require guarantees, restrictions on how this technology is deployed." "Reasonable concerns," Ilara agreed. "Which is why I'm proposing a new council, one that includes representatives from all major powers, including Earth. Together, we'll decide how to implement architect knowledge safely, benefiting all worlds." 3 months later, Ilara stood before the United Nations General Assembly on Earth, the first human to address the body after returning from another world. Beside her stood representatives from a dozen alien species, including Krenfar and, most surprisingly, a Vexmore diplomat. "Humanity's past does not define our future," she told the assembled leaders of Earth. "But it does inform it. We were once capable of wonders beyond imagination, and of mistakes that nearly ended all life in the galaxy. Now we have a second chance, not to reclaim our former glory, but to forge a new path guided by what we've learned." The vote to join the newly formed Galactic Concordat was nearly unanimous. As celebration erupted around her, Ilara gazed up through the assembly's glass ceiling at the stars above Manhattan. They no longer seemed distant and unreachable, but like old friends waiting to be revisited. Humanity had come full circle, from the stars to Earth, and now back to the stars again. But this time, they carried with them not just the knowledge of the architects, but the wisdom earned through their long journey home. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.